Hey guys, Loman02. We're going to be testing our test White Weenie deck that we built over the course of an hour in the Legacy format. So I've reflashed this thing as a Legacy deck. I think this hand's keepable in the dark, especially on the play. It's a little land heavy. So we're playing this as a Legacy deck. So, our opponent's probably looking at us like we're a moron, but hey, whatever. I'm going to keep this. It is a 4-lander, but this is a more land-heavy deck, and I think it's going to be able to find a use for it, especially considering it has a 2-drop, 3-drop into basically a 5-drop. But if we're able to find like a 2-mana spell, we can possibly equip and cast on turn 4. So here it's pretty easy. Windbrisk Kites, if we run into a wasteland, that's fine, I think. So we'll see what we hit here. Probably just get a Stoneforge Mystic to find the Batter Skull if we ever get to activate it. And put all that land on the bottom. We did make one main deck change. We removed the Bone Splitter entirely, and then so removed the Bone Splitter and then put in. That's interesting. All right, Thalia's getting in there. Remove the Bone Splitter and put in a Student of War or Warfare. Bone Splitter, not as enough upside as a Student of Warfare. Student of Warfare is just a huge upside card. So what we're playing against here could just be like a control deck, like an Abzan control deck. Well, I don't really want to draw more lands here, so I'm going to go ahead and probably just get a Silverblade on the board and just start trying to hammer fist my opponent down. It's possible I want to play around like Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares here. Yep. Get in there for 4. This is a pretty fast beatdown. I don't know what my opponent's... Oh, no. My opponent's in a lot of trouble then. Well, these fetch lands. So we're drawing lands, but at a minimum they are fetch lands, which means we have less and less lands in our deck. Yes, I did shuffle 2 lands back around in my library somewhere. I'm just going to play a sword out here for 4, because next turn I can equip and play the spirit out. I know I'm investing a little bit as opposed to just playing out my card that could prevent, like, something that kills me, but they're actually just dead next turn. Alright, well, I guess they're just dead. Alright, I guess opponent drew nothing. Alright. Suppose I should have equipped the sword, but meh. Alright, they, I guess, just die. Alright, well, that was a turn 5 kill, which is about as good as White Weenie will do regardless as a turn 5 kill. Maybe they can do turn 4 sometimes. And I think this is a much more neutral bias deck. So the deck did quite well there. Quick pause, guys. We'll go back to the deck. We can kind of re-review it. Our opponent didn't do anything. Our draw was not even particularly good, and it's still killed by turn 5. This is basically a fishing attempt. I don't know what my opponent capped. They didn't keep a hand that really did anything. So I guess a bad representation of the deck, but not really. I mean, we got to see a fishing attempt. The deck fishes fine. The deck does function. It killed by 5 here, which is exactly what you want. What we need to do is kill by turn 4 or turn 5. Really, it's not even kill by turn 4. Kill by turn 5 is kind of like the paradigm for White Weenie. It just disrupts before 4. We didn't really disrupt here, but we had the ability to with Selfless Spirit, and the sword would have gotten us probably a little deeper. Let's see what our next card would have been. It's probably too late to see that. Yeah, Moto's going to freeze up. Alright, guys. We'll cut it there. I guess I'll go back to the deck. I'm going to go a quick pause. We'll go back to the deck and check. Alright, guys. Back. I did obviously cut down the sideboard as well. Only main deck change that I told you about was the Bone Splitter came out, Student of Warfare came in. I forgot to put Student of Warfare in there for some reason or other. But it is in there now, which I think is good. Alright, so as you look through the sideboard, Fragmentize. I love this card. It just, it does so much for so little. If it was an instant, it would just be completely broken, but as a sorcery, it's still great. Disenchant, also just a very flexible, powerful card. Or of Silence, this card just shuts down some decks. Also just deals with, a lot of problematic cards, whether it be Moat, whether it be Humility, whether it be like a Tolarian Academy-based deck, whether it be a reanimation effect, whether it be a Birthing Pod. You name it. I mean, even like I guess omniscience in certain matchups. I mean, it just stops so much. Kentucky Wars Wage. This could probably come out for something else. The meta right now that we have doesn't really have a ton of artifact decks, but I just like having like ways just to hose those style of decks because I think oftentimes folks take for granted what's not currently in the meta as opposed to what might be in the meta. Rest in peace. Yeah, just you know what that's good against. It's good against the Delve decks. It's good against Tarmogoyf decks. Good against Deathrite Shaman decks. It's good versus Reanimator. It's good versus a lot of stuff. War Priest of Thune. I just left this guy in there because I kind of wanted one of these effects, and he is a human, which tends to be relevant with Thalia's Lieutenant, and he's just a fine card. Core Firewalker, it's one way of hosing red deck wins, but I don't think I need a ton of that effect because I already have the sword in there, and I just have good efficient I have 51 creatures in my deck. Samurai of the Pale Curtain just houses Reanimator. Sorcerer's Spyglass, just good in a lot of against a lot of the control decks. You can just generally get to see their hand and kind of make a game plan against it, and also stop their power cards like Planeswalkers, or certain lands can be stopped as well, like whether it be Maze of Ith or possibly as Con to the Sunken Ruin. Sword of Light and Shadow, very good in the mirror, also good against control decks like especially white-based board control decks. Verdant Wingmare, again good versus board control decks or blue decks. Gideon of the Trials, good versus combo decks, actually, of all things, because of the emblem. And also just a quick clock. And also not bad in the mirror because he can prevent damage from certain key permanents. And generally it tends to be about certain key permanents like shadow threats or other things like that. So I think Gideon is quite good. I did leave in the Windborn Muse, the Parallax Wave, and the Archangel of Tithes because I think these three cards tend to break the mirror pretty much wide open, as well as the sword. So when you start looking at like mirrors, I think you tend to want these two and these folks right here as well to kind of break the mirror open. I think that tends to be pretty good. I don't think you need Aura of Silence in the mirror. Gideon's not bad in the mirror either. The big Gideon is obviously a lot better, but I think Gideon of the Trial is just fine in the mirror as well. I mean, he can stop their best threat when you can generally block the rest, and just buy the time until you can get to like something crazy like Walking Ballista and just machine gun down their board. Go big man and just machine gun down their board because typically in the mirror you're going to take the Ravages and the Armageddon out, and you're going to be more of a landed deck against your opposition. And the funny thing is, you still look at this deck and it has 51 creatures, which is more than any other White Weenie deck that I've seen played in the Chainsaw Massacre. So I mean, this deck is not lacking in creature count. What those decks tend to have is more removal. They have less lands than we do, but they have more removal and more anthem effects. This deck makes up for its lack of anthem effects by having more creature-based anthem effects and just generally more creatures in general. I think in general the creatures are actually more powerful in this deck. Like you have a lot of tutor creatures that can just find you exact creatures like Walking Ballista that tend to break the mirror wide open, or find you Mother of Rooms, just breaks the mirror wide open, or Ranger of Eos finds Mother of Rooms or Walking Ballista and just blows it open again. So I do think this is a pretty strong deck. You got to see a fishing attempt there with it. And I wouldn't even call it fishing attempt. We're trying to play a game, but our opponent did not keep a hand that could play a game in the tournament practice room. And I guess that happens. I don't know. Anyways, guys, I'm going to cut it here. This is the White Weenie deck that I just, kind of cleaned up the sideboard, took out some of the cards I didn't think I wanted to play, added an Aura of Silence that I did not have in there before because I kind of like that card right now. And also put in a Student of Warfare over a Bone Splitter, and this is kind of the polished, or not polished, but the finished product that I have for right now. And hopefully you guys continue to fiddle with it, or build your own versions. And like I said, some of the cards are going to be a little heavier on the price range in this deck, but you start off from a baseline and then like set goals on it and slowly acquire the cards you need to play the deck as you want to play it. And you don't need all of them, but I think over time the mana base is going to be the most pricey. You have Horizon Canopy in there and a few others that are just not very inexpensive. But I think at the end of the day, the mana base is what kind of brings this deck together, because this deck is kind of it's an aggro control deck, right? And the way it controls is not through counter spells, generally not even like through a lot of removal. Like it only has 6 or 7 removal spells in it, like 6 removal spells and then like 1 removal creature in it. The way it controls is generally through mana denial or spell denial. Like you can't cast certain things because of Thalia, or because like Thalia Heretic Cathar makes your lands come into play tapped. You don't cast whatever you needed to cast that was relevant. Another card I just thought of, guys, is kind of funny because as you tune these things, other cards always come up. Imposing Sovereign. This card is a beast in the mirror. We're getting this card in there. We'll be cutting for it. Um, I don't know. What do we think? Sorry about this. I just, I love tuning these decks, and you'll just be sitting here and you'll be like, crap, I forgot about this card that I played like all the time, Um, I don't want to cut. We could sideboard the Revoker. The Revoker's probably worse in this meta, and if we sideboard Revoker, we'd probably just cut Wingmare. I think there's a higher chance of bringing in Revoker than there is Wingmare. We already have the Sorcerer's Spyglass as well. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, well, we are, again, I guess complete with the deck, but I'm sure I'll come up with more, and you'll probably look at this deck and be like, well, why aren't you playing this? And I'll be like, oh, that's probably a good idea. Some of your ideas may be good, some of them may not be, I don't know. And certainly some of my ideas may have been bad in this deck, but I do think the deck is a pretty neutral bias, death and taxes list that can go in a lot of different directions and play a lot of different pretty match-neutral games in the meta. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and this is part 2, the gameplay of the deck, or at least our fishing attempt against an opponent that did not keep a playable hand that we beat down within 5 turns. So that's it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and cut it there, and enjoy.